guys and girls, and welcome to episode 150 of the FReality Podcast. It's time to lock and load for this week's top VR news. We're going to be talking about Onward getting a visual downgrade on PC, rumors intensify around the Oculus Quest 2's IPD adjustment. We have some new information about Star Wars Tales from Galaxy's Edge. We'll be talking to our special guest, Lucas Rizotto, about VR game development and building real-life time machines. Mind blown, you definitely want to stick around for that. And then finally, Rowdy has got some new VR releases for you to look forward to next week. But now, let me introduce you to the team and find out what's been their highlight of the week this week. And also let us know what you played in the chat so we can read out some of your highlights too. First up to the plate, this guy is going full beast mode, or should I say, Mr. Beast mode. So Frisian friend, it's of course Nathy. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing fine. Although I have been working all week. It feels like I'm living in a simulation right now. It's pretty crazy, man. It's pretty freaking crazy. But yeah, we're setting everything up in terms of like hardware. You know, we collected everything. Now we're looking into setting everything up. And next week we're gonna shoot. So yeah, it's insane. We're having 30 to 40 accessories, headsets, simulators, etc. Everything, high end, low end, etc. Yeah.
And when do you think people will be able to watch the video? Do you know roughly when it's going to go live?
I don't know yet. I can't say. But it's usually not taking months because you know they like to be on the hype of stuff. Because if you would release it 2 months later, it's like yeah, this headset is pretty old. So yeah, but it's gonna be insane. I think it's gonna be the highest viewed video on the platform.
That includes VR, yeah.
Yes, VR. So it's gonna be huge for sure. So yeah, we're in crunch time now because you know that VR across the board is not always compatible. You know, you can't just, let's say, grab a Valve Index and then hook it up to a treadmill and then wear let's say certain gloves with it and then also put a haptic suit on and then also have some smell modules around you. I mean, that's not how it just works. You know, you need to do some research on what's possible or not. But it's gonna be good. Like, I did so much research in what games should they be playing, what experience should they be going for. The only thing that I cannot solve, sadly, is that if you want to try 40 to 50 accessories, headsets, etc. in 2 days, I can't promise that you're not going to get motion sick.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they react to that. Absolutely, yeah. But because they're not that well versed in VR, they've tried it, but they're not like pros. So yeah, that's going to be interesting. From the chat, people are saying, can you just adjust the audio levels slightly, like boost us up, and even yourself up a little bit, Nathy, I think.
Okay.
But yeah, I think this is going to be a super interesting project from Mr. Beast. Obviously, he's one of the biggest YouTubers on the platform. So to get that kind of exposure for virtual reality is great, I think, for the whole industry. So I'm excited to see it. So glad to hear that you're working hard behind the scenes to make it happen.
Yes.
Next up, this guy doesn't play well with others and is the definition of a lone wolf. Everyone say howdy to Rowdy. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. I also had a very, very busy week for completely different reasons than Nathy, just because I went to my first virtual reality conference in here. Well, it wasn't really virtual reality. It's more like online. They just called it a virtual reality conference. And they actually spent quite some time on making it really, really well. Now, this was for my work. So it was for my actual work. And it was on an Alzheimer conference that is called AAIC. It's the biggest Alzheimer's disease conference in the world that was held normally this year in Amsterdam, so back on the European continent. And the interesting part was the amount of effort that they did in making the conference as real as possible. So they even supported virtual reality devices, so you could use a virtual reality device to go to the conference session. And they had like the conference hall, like the lobby. You had the poster sessions. You could actually go in there and like not really walk around, but like look around a little bit. It was very, very interesting how they did that, and they obviously spent a lot of energy and time and money probably in making something like that. It was all moving as well, so you had like this overview of like the lobby. You could see people moving in the lobby, so it was really, really neat. It was the first time that I actually did something like that. It was also my first time I went to that specific conference. So it was a lot of firsts for the first time.
Nice. And how many people attended, like in VR? Do you know the numbers roughly?
I don't know if I don't think they keep those numbers really. Also because virtual reality, I don't think is really like the perfect platform in order to like, especially because you want to take a lot of notes, you need to write stuff down. I don't think virtual reality is like the perfect platform for doing that yet. But on average, a session would probably have like 700 to 1,000 people watching it live. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I take it, like, because this is to do with your work, did they supply you with a headset, or you're like, yeah, don't worry, guys, I've got this. I've got my own kit.
No, they don't, because everything is watchable just on a PC screen as well.
Okay.
And I think that is like 99.9% of the people are probably doing it that way. It's just neat that they, for the fun of it, I guess, like included virtual reality support as well. Which is kind of interesting to see. They maybe they knew I was coming, so they did it for me.
And were they actually talking about using VR as a platform to help people with Alzheimer's?
No,
because we talked about that before.
There might have been a few more talks that like went more into that like therapeutic benefit of like maybe using a virtual reality device. But that wasn't like the essence of the conference. It was more about like biomarkers, diagnosis, improving recognition, healthcare. It was more, that was really the focus, the hardcore science of the disease and the pathology. So very interesting though.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we've discussed that before. VR would be great, as a use case for people that suffer from Alzheimer's, maybe to take them back to a time that they remember vividly to help them out. That would be kind of an interesting thing. And I know that Nathy's brother and manager, David, does a lot of work or research in that kind of field, right, Nathy?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, Actually, I thought maybe to invite him on the podcast sometimes to talk about.
We should do that, actually. We should, because
get more into the healthcare stuff.
Yeah.
Because I keep on mentioning, for example, that yes, what you just referred to, but also that the Go is still getting used a lot in that field. So maybe to kind of dive deeper into that. I agree. Yeah,
we should get him on the show in the future. Absolutely. And talking about getting people on the show, it's a special guest this week who wants to take us back to the future. He's the builder of VR time machines. It's Lucas Rizotto. Welcome to the show, man.
Hi, everyone. It's really a pleasure to be here, especially as someone who's been watching the podcast from afar. And wait, how many? We're 100 and what?
150 episodes now.
Oh my God, guys.
Yeah,
I know. Like, how many years? Like, I think it's 3 years now we've been doing this, which is pretty crazy.
It's been insane.
Yeah.
A lot of fun.
Yeah, like it's always great to meet up with people that are like-minded and have this kind of like vision of VR, and they are super passionate about it. And that's kind of the joy of doing the show, I guess. And also, like, just recently having more guests on the show and getting insights from developers and people that are in different areas. And I think it teaches us a lot about the industry that we didn't necessarily know about before. So, yeah, it's great to have you on the show, especially with some of the stuff that you've been working on recently. I think it's going to be super interesting to talk about it later on in the show. So definitely looking forward to diving into that. But feel free to chip in with your thoughts and insights in any of the topics that we discuss on the show today.
Absolutely.
So if you don't know who I am, my name is Mike, host of the show from Virtual Reality Oasis. But before we get into what I played this week and what my highlight is, let's see what the chat have been up to this week.
Yeah, let me just bring the chat back here. So we have, we had a lot of people saying that the audio was still a bit too quiet, but now it seems to be resolved. So thanks for that.
I think I sound beautiful now. Do I sound beautiful? I hope so.
you always sound beautiful,
okay,
Nathan.
Cool.
Always. So we have Bug Bites that has been playing Vertigo Remastered. I wonder if that is one of our, is because of our guest from last time that he started playing that. So
yeah, it's such a good game. Dude. Such a good game. Yeah, it's totally underrated. And I think, it hasn't had as much love on the Steam store as it probably deserves. So, yeah, if you've not tried Vertigo Remastered, definitely go check it out.
Or if you haven't listened to that episode yet, go back to it because I think it's totally worth it. It felt very special to have him on.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Then we have Dave the Psycho. Yeah, he played games out of his comfort zone this week. He played Onward and Real VR Fishing. Those two are pretty much the same thing, so that's actually pretty cool. Then we have Ispvögel. in depth, every day, and some System Shock Enhanced Edition with the rewired mod. It is far too hot for VR right now. Is it that hot in the UK now as well? By the way, Mike.
Yeah, it's hot here. Like, thank God for aircon. Like, I know I only recently had it installed, but it's paying for itself like 1,000 times over now. Like, I'm so much happier in this space because it's in a loft, of course, which gets super hot.
Super
and
hot.
then I see.
Wait. Say that again.
Super hot.
No, in the way you should say it.
Super hot.
Yeah.
By the way, I just looked at Vertigo for the first time, and holy shit, this looks amazing.
Oh, it's so good, dude.
You haven't played that one before? Because that's
No.
It's actually a fairly old game now, right?
Yeah.
But they recently remastered it. It's the guy who
worked for
had on the
Valve.
show last week. He worked for Valve on Half-Life Alyx as well.
Yeah, or even
doing
better.
the hand interactions.
There is like a Vertigo 2 coming, and there's a demo now that you can play for free. So you could check it out. It works very well with the Rift and the Valve Index and mixed reality headsets, etc.
Yeah.
So
The demo is amazing. I think we even nominated it in one of our best games of the year last
demo.
year.
A demo.
The demo.
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty amazing.
Yeah. You can't see it, but like all my hairs are up from the trailer. I can't believe I haven't played this.
And that's a point, actually. I didn't ask you what your highlight of the week was this week, Lucas. Do you have something you've played recently that you want to share?
Actually, I have a highlight, but it's a little bit different. I've been getting a lot into, as someone who's an indie developer, I'm trying to find, fast ways to make tons of cool things. So I've been getting a lot into 3D scanning and photogrammetry, so I can, scan assets in the real world and bring them into games and do all sorts of stuff. So like I'm doing it mostly with the new iPad, which has like a LiDAR sensor that makes this easier. But oh my God, is it harder than I thought? Jesus, It's been a lot. I've been using 10 apps this week trying to learn how to make it work. And it's the sort of thing that's going to be super easy in like a couple of years. And people are going to be doing this all the time. Just scan something and put it in their game worlds, which is going to speed development and also look super realistic. So
Awesome.
I'm really excited about that.
Yeah. So how are you doing that at the moment? Like, say if you got a person you want to scan them, do you have to like physically rotate around them with the iPad?
So there's I'm doing everything. So I have some scanner apps like on the iPhone in which you just place the phone somewhere and you just basically you just stand up and you just like rotate very slowly and it just scans it.
Okay.
And I'm going as far as to go to like a mixed reality capture studio in LA like 2 weeks from now to like where they have like huge chroma keys and tons of cameras, and it's super expensive and crazy to get like the higher quality scans, and I'm going to see the difference between each one. But yeah. There's
another dev studio that made the puzzle game on SideQuest. We should probably hook you up with their details to get in contact with them as well, because they're pretty pro at photogrammetry, and they put together like a photogrammetry puzzle game in SideQuest.
Yes.
You know who I'm
they
talking
build
about.
miniatures. That's how they design the levels. They build
That's
miniatures and get photogrammetry scans, which is like amazing. You just
I got myself scanned like that one time. It was at an event where they had those like booths, and you could just go in there, and then they would you had to like, if you won like a lottery or something, they would also make like a little statue of yourself. I didn't win that, but I did get like it sent to me. It was like awesome because I took like this like awesome pose. So I had this like 3D kind of model of myself, like going like, yeah, it's freaking awesome.
Yeah, there's so much potential, but it's oddly very difficult right now. But I know that it upsets me a lot with VR and AR that like lots of things that are really hard now are going to be like super easy in a year from now. Yeah, and I'm going to be like,
that's why the people that are working in VR now are like the pioneers, right? They're like paving the road for everyone else in the future,
And that is why you build a time machine, of course, so you could just skip ahead.
They are scanning the road ahead of us. And,
absolutely.
Let us know in the chat, by the way, what you would scan. I don't know why.
Oh God! Don't ask them. Don't ask them. We know what's going to come up.
Too late.
Just be creative, okay?
But okay. But yeah, looking forward.
Maybe a few more of the things that people said in the chat. We had Odin the Audius. He said he played Onwards, Kaartkraft. Trevor saves the universe. And then I saw there was another one that I thought was a cool one. Wait, let me check real quick.
Which was?
No, it was PD who said was in depth. I've been trying to beat Gamertag's score.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, good luck with that. GT is like a bit pro.
Also, any scans that people want to make, Rowdy?
Let me check.
Great
Environments,
power, great responsibility.
landscapes, my dog, my chicken.
Okay.
Fair enough.
So yeah, we have suggestions coming in. Don't worry.
Yeah, Lucas has got his own chicken, which he's shown on camera.
Chicken is a good choice. Yes.
So let's talk about my highlight of this week, which is Onward, of course, on the Oculus Quest. But it also kind of blends in with the first bit of news this week. So I'll talk about my experience, and then we'll talk about the news around Onward as well, because there's some controversy a little bit around the game at the moment as well.
Okay.
Did any of you get to play Onward on Quest this week? You did,
yes.
Rowdy? Yeah, nice. So you can chip in with your thoughts as well.
Yeah.
So I got to play this with Lonely Viper, who is like a pro at this game. So he kind of taught me everything I needed to know and showed me the ropes. So thank you to him for his time. I also played with BMF and Gamertag VR, as we all had early access to the game. And also, on top of that, Downpour Interactive were kind enough to send over this huge Onward loot crate, which you might have seen me post on Twitter this sort of week. And it contained basically all this like military gear. So like they sent over like proper like military helmet, like tack vest, gloves.
Please tell me you like from now on are only gonna play Onward in that outfit.
Of course. Well, of course, like I wore it all for the video, which I was surprised actually that I could fit the helmet on top of my head with the Quest on as well. But it worked. It seemed to work fine, so that was really great. So yeah, I played it wearing all that kit, which was a lot of fun.
You looked so dangerous, man. It's like if I would see you on the battlefield, if I was your enemy, I was like, whoa, I need to be scared of this man. He's gonna 360 no scope.
That was more because he was playing with the Lonely Viper.
Well, this is the thing, right? Like, because I looked so pro, it's like then I couldn't play like a noob. But you know what I mean? Like otherwise, you're just gonna be like all the gear and no idea. So leveled me up, made me play better.
Very nice.
But yeah, in terms of like the port of it to Quest, obviously, looking at the game, the graphics, of course, have taken like a visual downgrade to get it to run on a standalone headset, which is understandable.
It's a bit like Robo Recall, same story, right? Like the graphics are just not so great, but at least the gameplay is still there.
Yeah, it's even in terms of Quest, obviously, it's not a particularly great-looking game compared to some of the stuff we have seen on Quest. Like you get some texture pop in when you get close to objects sometimes, and enemies in particular do look pretty bad. Also, they've implemented a kind of a new feature which I hadn't seen previously on the PC version, which is like a kind of a suppression effect, which basically reduces your field of view in the headset when shots are nearby or you actually get shot yourself. So your vision can like be reduced down to like a single like little circle.
Yeah, that happened on PC too, but it was more of a vignette kind of like effect. But here it's like a circle.
Right. It's quite it's not like it's a hard circle exactly. And I guess I understand the reasoning behind it because they want to simulate the disorientation of being like in a battle, which I get. You kind of panic, but it is kind of annoying, and hopefully they can. Like rework it in the future so there's an easier way to distinguish between like just a shot nearby or actually getting hit, because at the moment it's difficult to tell the difference between the two effects. So there's definitely room for improvement there, but it is in early access after all. But other than those complaints, like the Onward tactical gameplay that we know and love has remained intact in the port, and I think Downpour Interactive and CodeSync did a pretty good job with keeping the core gameplay intact. So yeah, what do you think, Rowdy?
I think that they managed to do that is actually kind of amazing, that you have a game like this now on a like a mobile processor, regardless of like the downgrade, and like we all expected that and we all knew that, but how well it works is it still surprises me. Anytime I take up like one of those like games and I put my Quest on, that it actually works so well on the Quest. And I actually managed to get a ProTube.
Nice.
Actually sent me one this week for me to try out with the Oculus Quest, since I didn't manage to bring it from Belgium. So I managed to play around with this as well, and it's just like, I know I'm a noob and I know I probably don't know how to use this thing properly, but I feel so badass when I'm using this thing. And it does improve your shot, obviously. It is so awesome that you have these kind of like hardware kind of accessories that can improve your gameplay and make it more fun and even more like realistic in a certain way. It's I've had so much fun with that.
I think especially because the Quest is wireless, using the ProTube was much easier because you're not getting tangled up when you're spinning around, targeting your enemies.
And
but of course,
like the things that I like so much about it is that these like kind of come off.
Yeah,
So
with magnets.
They're like magnetic. So it's so nice when you're playing around with like your gun and you want to get your pistol, you can still do that. It's actually kind of neat.
I think this is great news for the Quest, especially because it's been a while. We have seen like a big multiplayer title coming to the platform. Although I do still wish that Oculus is gonna speed up the process a little bit and approve these things earlier, because like the Quest has been out for a year and now it's finally coming out. You know what I mean? So I feel like this game, of course, needed some work for sure on Quest, but it's like this could have been faster. It feels like the launches feel very slow.
And obviously, like, Lucas, you've had experience, porting a game to mobile. So you kind of understand, a lot of the limitations of the platform. Maybe you could, share some insights into like how difficult that actually is. Because I think a lot of people take the work behind the scenes for granted. Like it's easy to post on Reddit how upset you are, but without understanding really what goes on behind the scenes.
Okay, so yeah, I actually can't comment on this because I actually did the same things that they did, because we use the game development tools. But essentially what happened is that they developed this game in Unity like in 2016, 2015, in which Unity was a completely different game engine. And what happened is that basically, putting it simply, the way that the graphics work is just it's a bunch of math. It goes into a rendering pipeline, which is the engine, and it spits out the visuals. And Unity announced 1 or 2 years ago a new engine called the Universal Render Pipeline, which makes these games run very well on mobile hardware like the Quest. So what they did is that they got Onward and they rewrote all the visuals so it would work with that new pipeline. And unfortunately, they can't be working on 2 different versions of the game at the same time. It's just like too time consuming, especially for an indie team. So the high-end visuals of the PC VR are still running on that pipeline now, and the lower end, it's a lower end version of the same pipeline. So they had to rewrite all the visuals so it would work on Quest, but so they wouldn't have 2 versions of the game being developed independently. They had to like tie them up. So it's I think it's actually a good thing. There's the visual downgrade, which sucks, but it means that they are looking ahead, like they want to support this long term. Otherwise, they could just, not touch it, not update it at all, and like not give a crap.
Yeah.
But I think the fact that they've done this, it shows that this is a game that's gonna go on for like several years and have a strong community behind it.
But it also shows where the sales are. I think you can better continue supporting the standalone versions than the PC one, because that's where you're gonna make the money in the future.
But I think that what Lucas actually says, like if they look ahead at the future, and we are all saying like Oculus Quest is the future, and we're actually even considering that the Rift S might not get a successor, that it might be smart from a company like Onward to invest time and making sure that the game is future.
Of course, I mean, look at the reviews. There are already 1,000 reviews in 24 hours. Same what happened with Five Nights at Freddy's, If you compare it to what's happening on PC VR, you're going to be surprised again. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I can understand, PC players being upset. They invest a lot of money into hardware to get like the high-end visuals of all the PC games, which obviously can't run that well on Quest. But by streamlining the game and, simplifying the assets, they can build upon it. And certainly when I reached out to the community manager of Onward, his kind of response was, it's complicated and it's a possibility that we're reverting PC for a moment until we get the visuals back up for PC. It has nothing to do with syncing up with Quest. It's a development issue. PC will eventually look as good again as it did before, if not better. But like you say, from Lucas's point of view, like developers don't want to be working on 2 separate versions of the game, because like say if you add a weapon, you've then got to add it twice rather than just once. So it just makes sense from that point of view. So I understand why people are upset, but I think long term it's going to add way more players to the game, and hopefully we'll reignite this kind of like competitive community that we've kind of like lost a little bit over the years. That we saw like really at OC4 and OC5, those big kind of like competitive events.
Yeah.
We lost them at OC6. But hopefully this kind of reignites that competitive scene again.
I think that the PC VR community should just get used to this, because this is going to happen more and more. This is going to be pretty standard stuff soon, because Quest is just where, as I said, also where the money is. So there are more priorities there. So if you have to downgrade to make it work on the Quest for PC, then yeah, sure, because you have to survive as a dev studio.
Yeah, go on, Lucas.
So yeah, the I think it's really noticeable with Onward because they're going for a photorealistic visual style. But I think, you know, as developers start designing games to be released on the Quest, they're going to opt for different visual styles that are more, you know, stylized and less photorealistic. So the downgrade is not visible because it's just part of like the, you know, the look. So it's also visible with Onward because they were going for photorealism from the very beginning. But the games that don't do that are not going to. You're going to see the improvement, but you're not going to miss anything in the future.
Yeah, I like the thing is, like,
Lies Beneath, for example. You know, it's kind of like a more cartoony style, cell-shaded effect. Yeah.
Plus, like Onward came out at a different time where there was no standalone yet. So you can just see that it now needs to, you know, jump over this fence of like we're getting into a different era with standalone. So soon games were already made for the Quest, so they jump over to the next standalone VR headset. So here it's still, you feel that gap of like the past and now the future. Yeah.
But definitely, you know, with the visuals, they obviously understand the community backlash and they are addressing it. They are going to work on it. So hopefully, you know, it'll get back, like they said in the comment, if not better in the future. But just for now, it just needs to be this way to streamline the development process. But, you know, I think on a positive note, the Quest community coming onto this game, which is obviously cross-platform play with PC, is just going to give a significant boost to the player base and ultimately help the game in the future, I think. So I think a lot of negativity has been spoken about this, but I don't think a lot of people are addressing the positive benefits of this.
It's like PC VR community, and now you have the Quest community, and that's a different culture and a different perspective. So,
Yeah. So that is Onward on the Oculus Quest. If you like kind of like slower, more tactical, team-based communication sort of first-person shooters, it's a little bit different than the traditional sort of run and gun that we've sort of seen on SideQuest, like with Pavlov and Hyperdash. So yeah, go check it out. It's available now on the Quest. Next bit of news, while we're talking about Quest, is about Oculus Quest 2 and its IPD adjustment. So last week on the show, we went over the leaked images of the new Quest and we kind of speculated over the different parts of the headset. We got very heated at different points, so if you missed it, go back and check it out. It's kind of fun to listen to some of our opinions on those things. But one of the key points of the discussion was the lack of a physical IPD adjustment slider, which is kind of normally located underneath the headset. Now, IPD stands for interpupillary distance and is essentially the distance between the pupils of your eyes. And setting this up correctly in a VR headset is vital for a comfortable experience. And some headsets like the Oculus Go, Rift S, they have a fixed IPD, but this can be problematic for people who kind of fall too far outside of the ideal IPD sweet spot of like 64 millimeters, I think it is roughly, Rowdy being one of them. So obviously not seeing a slider on the leaked Quest 2 images caused a lot of concern with us and of course the wider VR community. However, one of the images which gave us a kind of closer look at the lenses, which we did touch on briefly, we could see that there was like a number 2 where the internal proximity sensor would be. And it also seemed that there was room for the lenses to move a little bit, which kind of hinted at a new kind of IPD adjustment. So Upload VR this week, they shared some information which they say is from a reliable source and said in an article that the upcoming Oculus Quest has a new system for physically adjusting the lenses to your IPD. The new Quest exchanges the slider on the underside of the headset for a new system of directly moving the eye cups to put the lenses into 3 distinct positions. So it kind of is hinting at that, you know, we're going to get proper IPD adjustment on the Quest 2, although it's just going to be a different system that we're not familiar with and we haven't seen before on a VR headset. And I guess this new design is all about weight saving. I'm guessing, because that seems to be like a theme running through the new design. So what do you guys think of this? Interested to hear your thoughts on this as well, Lucas. Like, what do you think of this new streamlined look of this supposedly Quest 2?
I think it's great as far as the IPD goes. It's the perfect blend of like a hardware solution that takes care of the people who are on the edge cases, and also just a software-based solution for everyone in between. But it also, I think one of the main reasons is not just weight, but it's also so they can use LCD screens, which if you look at the Oculus Go, the image is actually super sharp. Even though it looks good on the Quest, the Oculus Go, the image is a little bit smoother, and that's because they use LCD displays. But I think that new approach will let them use those kinds of displays on the Oculus Quest. So you're going to see a visual improvement, and you're going to still be able to, like, you know, have people from all those sides of the IPD spectrum to use it. So I think it's great.
Yeah, and it's interesting because we spoke to Guy Godin on the show a few weeks back from the creator of Virtual Desktop. And we were talking about refresh rates, because refresh rates was one of the rumors that came out of this, and maybe we can get your opinion on this as well. That some people were hinting that the refresh rate will be boosted up from 72 hertz to like potentially 90 hertz. But he was saying that would again be problematic because you would have two versions of the game potentially, one running at different speeds. Is that right in your mind as well?
Yeah, and it would be a nightmare for developers. It would be a nightmare for me.
Yeah.
So I don't think they're gonna do that. I think they found the refresh rate that the average person is okay with. The Quest in 72. I'd be surprised if they move it to 90, because then the whole thing with the refresh rate right now is that Quest developers have to make their game run at 72 frames a second, 72 hertz. And if they upped it to 90, I don't know what would happen. If they would compensate, or if I would have to put in work to make my game Quest 2 compatible.
Yeah.
But that's a lot of frames. That's not trivial. It's really hard to get that.
Interestingly, that is interesting. And I think the speculation that we kind of settled on in the end was that the 90 hertz boost might come from when you connect it to a PC using Link.
Right.
Because obviously like 90 hertz is supported on the Rift platform and with Steam VR.
Yeah. If the new hardware is so good that is able to basically run everything that runs at 72 frames into 90 frames without developers being able to, having to do anything, then this probably would work. But otherwise, I wouldn't see that happening.
Yeah.
I think,
not even if you say like you connected the Quest to a PC that it could boost.
That could work. Okay. Yeah,
that could work.
Nice middle ground.
Okay, cool. So yeah, what about you, you other guys? What do you think about this IPD adjustment? You happier now that we've kind of got these like rumors?
I still don't know what it means. Like for me, like if they say like, first of all, I want to know what the range is. Like if they say like the outer edges of the range, like what kind of range do they use? Because like I said before, like they're still under the one standard deviation of the average mean of it, which I think is still quite low, because you only have like about 60 to 70% of the people that are actually optimally using this headset. That being said, it's good that they use some kind of IPD adjustment. It does make me wonder if they only have 3 settings, like what range does each setting kind of support? Because we both know with those Fresnel lenses, the focal point is not that big in order that it can support like a very wide range in that sense. So I'm actually kind of curious about that.
Okay. But yeah, this new information from Upload VR along with the images definitely looks promising. I would say. But yeah, like the I guess we'll find out for sure when it comes to like the 15th of September. That was the kind of rumored date around the leak of these images that the announcement is going to be made, which would coincide previously with Oculus Connect over the last couple of years.
Funny coincidence, don't you think? Right?
Well, 15th, September. Yeah, it would be. It's not that far away now.
No.
We're only like just over a month away. So
I think
finally we'll be put out of our misery.
You know what they should do with the IPD? They should go back to what the DK1 had, where you just had swappable lenses, and they just give you like 20, 30 versions that you can just,
I remember now. Yeah, they had that with the CV1 as well, the DK1 as well, right?
The DK1, that's what I'm talking
exchangeable,
about. The DK2,
exchangeable lenses.
I think the DK2 was like set. Was it? Or was it also swappable? I
can't remember now. I've got one here, but it's been so long since I've used it.
It's been a while. But that would be funny, right? Where you just send people different ones. They're like, oh, let me try this one.
Just want to watch the world burn.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
But it's promising, and I think hopefully this information will put a lot of people out there, in the VR community that are concerned about not having IPD adjustment on the new Quest at ease, and it's definitely welcome because I think that was problematic for both the Go and the Rift S.
Yeah.
Even Palmer Luckey himself couldn't use the device according to him anyway.
Let's just hope Facebook knows what they're doing.
I'm sure they've got it in the bag, but again,
that's your prediction. Okay, let's find out.
I think it's easy to be dismissive without knowing what's under the hood, and I think that always happens when you see leaked images.
Just don't get too excited, but also don't get too, stay in the middle. Stay normal.
Yeah.
Down to earth.
They know what they're doing.
Boots on the ground.
They actually do. Yeah, they know the concerns, and they are always planning to fix it, if not on this one, in the next generation. So they have a plan. They have a roadmap. They know what they're doing.
6 more weeks to wait. So we'll find out for sure then. But that is IPD adjustment.
Master plan.
Yeah, IPD adjustment is going to be likely on the next Oculus Quest. Next up, some information about the new upcoming VR Star Wars game called Tales from Galaxy's Edge. Are you excited for this one?
Who? Me?
Any of you? It doesn't matter.
Yeah, me. Yeah. Dude,
Yeah,
I'm so excited, man. No, I'm crazy excited. I'm
kind of excited of where they're gonna take this now. That's what.
Yeah.
Like, I've actually been to Galaxy's Edge. I've actually been there already, so I'm gonna relive it in VR.
Yeah. Well, we got a snippet of information. We didn't get too much. We didn't get a game trailer, unfortunately, but we got a kind of like behind-the-scenes look at the development. Obviously, the new game's developed by ILM X Lab in collaboration with Oculus Studios, just like the previous Vader Immortal series. You guys we were all pretty much a fan of the Vader Immortal series, although the series kind of like I think we all agreed that it felt like it kind of went a bit downhill as the episodes progressed.
We basically said it would have been better if all the episodes would have been like
in one
together,
molded into
one.
Yeah. I think that would have made it a lot better.
It felt a lot like filmmakers making a game.
Yeah.
Right.
The first one there was the most interactive of them all, but then it started to feel like those old games from the 90s that are like rail shooters, and it was like, felt weird.
I totally feel you with that because, like, you know, the whole section at the beginning where you get captured and then, you know, you meet Vader for the first time, it's just so amazing.
But then because it was new, you know, you hadn't experienced something like that before. But then in the second game, you look for something, you know, new again. But it's like kind of like a reiteration of what the first one was, and the same with the third one. Then again, so that's why I said maybe if they put everything together, the overall impression would have been better of the series in total.
Not only that, it also felt very safe. I feel like every time a new Star Wars VR game comes out, it's made for the new people who just buy into a headset and not for the users that are already on the platform. So I feel like this one is gonna be also kind of targeted towards that audience. Makes sense because Star Wars is how you sell headsets. So, but I wish they're gonna explore some new things that are a bit more on the edge of what VR is. You know, what VR can do. Because yes, it was a fun experience, but it didn't blow me away in terms of mechanics, and I would love to see some more in that sense.
I got addicted to the dojo though completely. I was just like,
that's a good invention for sure.
Like as a kid, being able to train to be a Jedi every day, that's like fucking amazing.
Yeah.
I got addicted to the dojo, but the story. I just want to talk about one thing in the story because
sure.
When episode 2, when you saw that Vader was doing those things because of Padme, I was like, holy shit, this is like. They're introducing a very vulnerable side of Vader that you don't see anywhere else, really. And I'm so upset that you didn't play as Vader because I think it would have been amazing if on episode 2 you just play like Vader from his perspective, so you can get some of those, you know, the emotional perspective. They kind of abandoned the Padme thing, and I was like, oh, I was gonna see that side of Vader, the more vulnerable.
It's like a huge thing, like revealing that and then just leaving it there is like insane.
The ending was very anticlimactic. Like you said, it felt like it was building up to something bigger than actually the payoff was in the end. But certainly with this new game, I know you touched on it, Nathan, you think it might be leading in the similar direction, but what they have hinted at is multiple difficulty levels, and also the fact that you can die in this one, because that was, you know, you couldn't necessarily die apparently during Vader Immortal. Is that kind of like
more game than movie?
Exactly, yeah. And in terms of like character, you actually play the role of a droid repair technician, and you've been attacked by the Guavian Death Gang. Check that, pretty epic.
Guavians?
Yeah, the Guavian Death Gang, and you've crash landed on
like some kind of drink that you get on like
guava juice. Yeah. But yeah, you've been attacked by them. They're kind of like space pirates, and you've crash landed on the planet of Batuu, near to the Black Spire outpost. Now, the Guavian Death Gang, they've actually featured in the movie. They featured in Force Awakens. They're actually the group that confronted Han Solo and Chewbacca aboard the Millennium Falcon. If you remember that scene from the movie when they had that kind of like dangerous cargo. If you remember that bit. But what's interesting, like Nathan touched on earlier with this project, is that it revolves around this like Black Spire outpost, sorry, which directly links to the real-world Galaxy's Edge theme park experience at Disney World, right?
Yeah.
And you've been there, and you've been on the Millennium Falcon ride.
Yes, it's called I think it's called Batuu.
Batu, yeah.
Yeah.
But the Black Spy Outpost is like the location on the planet.
True. Yeah, and yeah, you can ride the Millennium Falcon. It's in Disneyland, and it's also in I think it's in Disney World as well. So there are
That's right.
two.
Yeah.
But yes,
And is
it's
it called
like
Smuggler's Run?
Smuggler's
Run?
Yeah, Smuggler's Run, exactly. But there is a storyline to Batu and what's going on there. You know, you have rebels running around over there. The Empire seems to also be in control there. So I think we're gonna see some of that lore from Disneyland connected to. And what I thought was maybe interesting is if they would use like maybe some 3D scans from the actual place and then implement that could make it look really, you know, awesome.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the whole concept of the idea, is that they've taken a lot of the layout and the items that are in the real world, you know, theme park attractions, and taken them into the game, and then just added story around everything. So basically, you're obviously being hunted by this Guavian death gang. You know, you're a droid repair technician, so that you've obviously done something to upset them, and you've crash landed on this planet. You know, you've got this cantina there, which I guess you can visit in the real world location, which is Cecil Slack's cantina. And in the game, you can like just hang out, listen to his stories. He talks about the Millennium Falcon, because that's obviously still there as well, which is at the Black Spy Outpost, and why it's there. Because this story is set between The Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker. So there's obviously a story as to why the Millennium Falcon's there, and you know, you obviously play a role in the greater story. If you want, you can just hang out in there as well. You can play some music on the jukebox, some like alien tunes, and you can even play some space darts in there as well if you want to. But yeah, it seems like we're going to be wielding blasters and being chased by this gang, but it doesn't mention anything about lightsabers this time around. So maybe you're not sort of like a, you know, one with the Force or have any sort of Jedi powers.
So this like right now, as we know, is like an Oculus thing again, but it might be a timed exclusive, because usually these kind of like titles, because PlayStation VR now has Vader Immortal 2, right?
They do, yeah.
So
that's right.
I think this is also gonna come to, you know, other platforms. Of course, it's nice to have a timed exclusive for like maybe a year to sell.
But while touching on that, it's kind of interesting, because in the blog post, all it says is that the game is coming to Quest. It doesn't even mention Rift at all.
Okay, so they might have a timed exclusive on just saying that for now. That could be.
But didn't they do the same thing with
they did.
Vader Immortal?
Yeah,
they did. It
took
came
a
out
while.
on Quest first, and then it came out on Rift later.
Yeah.
So we might see the same thing again. And obviously, you know, if you're going to launch a new headset, you know, this game is rumored to come out later this year. You know, it's great, like I said on last week's episode, to release an epic game like Star Wars with a brand new headset. You know, this is the way to sell devices.
Throw some Lone Echo in and some Medal of Honor, and you got a nice little bundle.
Yeah, and in a way, in their marketing, they don't want you to even think about other headsets that are the Quest, because you know they're like Star Wars. They want the average, like, you know, mainstream consumer. So they want to pretend that the Quest is the only one that exists, and they don't want you to even think about, you know, other headsets. So makes sense.
Yeah,
but
it does make sense.
So far, like, this video that they launched was interesting, but it wasn't much gameplay. It was nice to get a behind-the-scenes look.
Yeah,
but
no gameplay.
There were some, like, you can see in the trailer, like, you apparently get chased by this alien, because you can see it in the video that something is chasing you. You have to escape. So it seems like it's kind of like scripted events that are going to happen, and maybe point to point where you're gonna bump into something. So it's not gonna be.
I think it's more open. Like, you can take your time and do what you want to do, I think. And that lady is her name's Tara Rasheen apparently, and she's like the head of the Guavian Death Gang. She's like a alien.
I don't know. Like,
pirate.
if you look at the concept stuff that they show, it shows more of like a point to point adventure title. But I don't know. Maybe like open world. Yeah, who knows? If it's too open world, we're gonna see like parks popping up in the distance because the rendering is going crazy. So I don't know how it's gonna look.
ILML, like ILML would never do open world. I seriously doubt.
Yeah.
They're like, they wanna. It's a hallway. It's a really good looking hallway. That's what the game is gonna be, probably.
Full of porks. Yeah.
I don't know, like don't you think it's kind of like interesting that they launch this, but then it doesn't really necessarily have to do anything with Disneyland? Although of course Disney owns the whole franchise nowadays. I'm like, bring this to Disneyland, you know? Take a little bit of that experience from the Quest and polish it, and it's like maybe a 10-minute void kind of like thing, and just drop it there and let people play it. I'm like, include it because it's awesome.
Because right at the moment, it seems like it's the other way around, right? It's like the real world going into VR. Like they've just taken the concept and put it into VR. Yeah. You want it the other way around. You want like a Void experience there.
Yeah.
Using this concept. Okay.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Yeah, like the CEO of Disney a couple of years ago said he hates VR. He would never do VR in the theme parks, but now it seems they've done the 180.
Yeah.
So they're like actually considering it now.
Although I think, like location-based VR, like right now, is probably not on anyone's priority list because it's probably incredibly difficult and troublesome, and everyone's concerned about like, getting ill from having someone else's face juice on their head, from a headset or whatever. You just don't want that. So I think it's probably unlikely at this point.
Yeah. The Void is closing most of their spaces as well. So
yeah, it's a shame because that Secrets of the Empire. I don't know if you ever tried it, Lucas. Did you try it?
I did actually.
Like I think it's the best VR Star Wars experience I've ever tried so far.
Yeah, really? Because talking about like multiplayer, this is going to be a single player one.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
I would again. I'm so preaching for multiplayer. I feel like even if I look at this year, what came out is almost nothing multiplayer. I really need to scrape for the bottom. And Star Wars, like trying that at the Void with your friends. My God, that's still like my highest rated Star Wars VR game.
Yeah, like my best VR experiences by far are always like immersive theater experiences that makes physical actors and things with VR. Those are the ones that really stick with you forever. They're really
I take it you as a fan of the Tempest then?
I was, Tempest was cool, but I think my most impactful VR experience was one called Unchained, which was a very short run, December, Christmas VR experience with live actors. And there's something about a character walking towards you and you feeling their breath on your face. That's like, wow, whoa, okay. It's really impactful. Immersive theater is really cool.
And that was so that was real life immersive theater but you're all wearing VR headsets. So you're all in the same physical space, but wearing VR headsets.
It was me. It was just me. I was the player, and there was one actor that played multiple characters, and it's so megalomaniac and so financially unsustainable. It's just but it was so special to have that kind of attention for one person.
Yeah, that sounds incredible. I've never heard of that one before. Yeah, so it's really limited run. Interesting. What was it called again?
Unchained. It was A Christmas Tale. Something.
We should recreate this for your series.
Yeah, there you go. Future video for you.
Yeah, but you're seeing that with experiences like the on the Quest now, of like people trying to bring live actors and that component to VR.
But we want it from you because
yes.
What are you doing on this podcast? Get to work.
But just to touch on that, I think like this the genre of like VR experiences with live actors is really one of the first genres of VR content that really only exists in virtual reality. And I think that's what's going to make VR really like last in the long run, is these genres of things that only exist in VR. And the Under is a really good example.
It is great. Yeah, it is great. It's not for everyone, but if you like immersive theater, go check it out for sure.
It's the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I welcome it with open arms. Absolutely. The final bit of news this week is about Microsoft's Flight Simulator, as there was a lot of confusion this week, I would say, about the VR support coming. So this is the official word from Microsoft, who posted an update blog on the game on Thursday. And they stated, we are excited about the reception that Microsoft Flight Simulator has received from the community and look forward to its launch on August 18th. Today, we announced that Microsoft Flight Simulator will support VR platforms beginning fall 2020 as a free update. VR support for Microsoft Flight Simulator will coincide with the release of the HP Reverb G2 this fall. VR support will be available on all Windows mixed reality headsets upon VR launch. Support for additional platforms and headsets will follow. So I think the confusion came because Upload did an article saying that the game was going to launch and only support the HP Reverb G2. I think they just misinterpreted the message. Instead of coinciding with the release, they thought, it's only going to support that headset. But it is going to support all Windows ML headsets in the initial update in the fall. And then obviously like Index and Rift support will come later on down the line after that. Good news all around.
How will that work then? How will that work with like that? Are they going to bring the game then also to Steam? Is it on Steam already?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Rowdy. I'm glad you asked. You read my mind because the game is now available on Steam. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
There we go.
So obviously on the Microsoft platform, it can support Windows MR. It's also going to be on Steam now, so it's going to support Windows MR and all the other headsets on Steam version.
On the Windows Store, it apparently also supported more headsets. One of our viewers actually told us that last week. So you can
with games such as like a No Man's Sky, they were able to pull off VR headset support that weren't Windows MR using Steam VR, which is kind of strange.
But that's not official, right? It just works like that, or is that officially supported?
What do you mean?
Does Microsoft officially support you using Steam VR through their store?
Yeah, it's officially supported. Okay. Yeah, it's officially supported. Although there will be a Steam VR version of the game, so it should mitigate a lot of that issue. But coincide with the HP Reverb G2 release, I think it's great marketing for them because this is a headset that's very interesting, particularly for simmers, because it's got one of the most pixel dense displays on the market with a 2160 by 2160 per eye resolution, which is going to be pretty intense.
I think that's smart, and I kind of applaud them for doing that because. We all said, if there's one virtual reality game that you want to play in a high resolution headset, it's probably that kind of game.
Hell yeah.
And, then bringing that out on there, it's just a smart choice.
And it's good marketing that Upload made a mistake because now half of the community thinks that it's only coming out on the G2. So that's also great. But hey, always check another website, see if it's true. Road to VR is usually pretty solid. So. Just saying, because I think like we are now talking about it. I'm sure there's some people in the chat are like, oh, I didn't know that. Also, I made the mistake by just instantly sharing it and be like, yeah, G2, here we go. Sound pretty legit to me. I mean,
you're part of the problem, Nathan.
I'm part of the problem too. No, but that's why I'm saying it now and I'm repeating myself. Like,
of course.
It's working on everything. So that's why they're like, HP was like having the best times of their lives because they're like, oh, we just pretend that we have an exclusive now. So, yeah, that's funny.
Are you hyped for this one, Lucas?
Yes, and it's a free update for us, but really this is what this is. It's a huge move by Microsoft to really get the enterprise simulation market, which is like tens of millions of dollars at the very least, probably more. Like actual flight simulator, physical ones can cost anywhere from like $50,000 to like millions of dollars. So the fact that they can offer an experience that's like really immersive. And the Microsoft can sell because Microsoft has all of the enterprise partners in the world. It means that we get a really cool flight simulator, but they also get to make tons of money disrupting the simulation.
How they could have made even more money if they actually spend some of their money on making a virtual reality headset for the Xbox. That would have been smart,
I don't know what they're doing with the Xbox, man.
Well, they got the Windows MR platform, so if it's going to support a headset, it's likely going to support that, I would guess. But the rumors suggest, obviously, the HP Reverb G2 is going to release mid-September. Will start shipping to people that pre-ordered it. Obviously, that will coincide with the Quest 2 as well, if that's going to be mid-September. So everyone, you just clear your diaries for mid-September because it's going to be a busy time for everyone. But it's great for obviously us, Yeah. Well. But it's worth mentioning there are going to be there are 3 different versions of Microsoft Flight Simulator on Steam now to pre-order. We don't recommend you pre-order, but
prepare your wallets.
Yeah, absolutely. Because get ready for this. The standard edition of the game is $59.99 in US dollars, $59.99 in British pounds, and that includes obviously the game, 20 highly detailed planes, and 30 handcrafted airports.
Ooh, now, handcrafted.
There are thousands of other airports in the game that all come from satellite imagery that you can also land at. So it's just that there's going to be 30 of them that are going to be super, super detailed.
Oh.
Then
how
you have.
Much is it in the Canadian dollars, Mike?
Who cares about Canada? The next one is the deluxe edition, which is $89.99 in US dollars, $79.99 in British pounds. This includes everything from the standard game plus 5 additional planes, including the Cessna Aerobat and the Cessna Skyhawk. If they're some of your favorites, you're going to be over the moon.
That's the one I wanted. So I think I'm going to go for this.
Although you're going to be happy with this, Nathan, because the 5 additional airports that you also get with the deluxe edition include Amsterdam. Schiphol Airport.
Schiphol, yes.
Schiphol Airport.
How do you pronounce it, Mike?
Schiphol.
Schiphol.
How do you spell it? Or how do you pronounce it?
Go ahead, Nathan. You did you.
Schiphol.
Schiphol.
Just say Schip.
So Dave says sheep pole.
Sheep pole.
Okay. So yeah, it includes Amsterdam
Nice.
Schiphol Airport and Cairo International.
Okay.
And then you have like the super premium deluxe edition, which is a whopping $119.99 in US dollars,
Bless us.
£109.99 in British pounds. This includes everything from the standard game, deluxe game, and the premium version includes 5 more planes, so you're getting 10 additional planes in total, and 5 more airports, which again,
Brussels
10
Airport.
10 airports in total, including the Boeing 787 Dreamliner, which is an amazing
fancy.
passenger plane. And you also get airports such as Heathrow International and San Francisco International.
That means
Oh,
that you.
sneaky bastards.
Yeah, I know. Heathrow is the one that everyone
Yeah.
wants, right?
Yeah.
Damn it. So I'm going to have to spend like 120 quid just so I can fly a plane out of bloody Heathrow Airport.
Don't you think that this game is in the end gonna be like, is it VTOL that is like selling so many DLC? Like in the end, where in a few years we have like 10,000s of airports. Like, oh, I want to buy the airport in Madagascar, so let's also
like
buy this DLC. You know?
Simulator or something?
Well, they're going to enable a workshop, so companies will be able to add content to the game that you can buy independently, which is awesome.
Yeah,
which is
let's
awesome.
let's
Yeah.
make it ourselves,
Yep.
Mike.
There you go. We could do that. Yeah, we could make it.
And we make Schiphol
someone
too.
in the chat also mentioned, which is an interesting point. It is going to be available on Game Pass, but it's worth noting that it's only going to be the standard version of the game on Game Pass. But Game Pass offers great value. What is it, $4.99 in US dollars a month, and you're getting access to this amazing game that's super expensive. So, pretty sick deal. But yeah. Microsoft Flight Simulator launching on the 18th of August. We'll be getting VR support first on Windows MR in the fall, and then other headsets will follow shortly after. So pretty good news all round, I think.
I hate it though when they say something like the fall, like just like three
Yeah.
3 months time. Like, what? Can't you be a little bit more?
Well, it's like
in a 2-week
spring with the
range or
Quest.
something?
Oh my
Yeah.
god, like
Yeah, Lucas, are you
Yeah.
guilty to telling your consumer people, the ones that are gonna buy your stuff, like, hey, it's gonna come out in the fall? What do you think about developers using that term of like a season instead of it's gonna be July or it's gonna be November?
It probably reduces frustration on the part of the consumer.
That's-
Yeah,
Yeah.
because things always go wrong. I delay my things all the fucking time. My time machine video, which we're gonna talk about later. I was in April, like it's gonna be out in April, guys, and it went out in July.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's to keep customers happy, because
Wait,
otherwise
I
you
still
promise them
have-
something and you don't deliver.
I
They
still
get
have, I
upset.
still have flashbacks. Was it a Quest? What was it? There was something where we also kept hearing the same.
It was spring, yeah, with the Quest.
Spring. Yeah, spring. It's
Yeah.
like spring.
It was like one of the last
thing
days
is-
of spring that
Spring.
it came out in.
Yeah, spring
Thing
was
is,
rough.
yeah, well, why don't you just do that then? Just put the last day of spring there. Like,
that's always
for
what
example,
happens.
Lone Echo is coming out in 2020. Lone
Yeah,
Echo
I
is
think
December.
it generates
Wait,
more hype. I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
people are just, hoping and talking about it more, even if they're going to release it only at the end. Maybe that's it. Conspiracy.
probably
This is a conspiracy. This is a good
consumer
conspiracy.
frustration.
I'm super excited about Microsoft Flight Simulator though. I don't even know why. I'm not even into flight simulators, but I just love the look of this game. I think it looks
But
absolutely
it's-
incredible.
It is single player, right? It's not that I can sit as a passenger in your plane and you can just fly me around.
It is multiplayer, but I don't think you can sit in my plane. We can sit in our own planes.
Imagine Mike having like the autopilot, and then because it's VR, he can just bring me some champagne too. It's like, hey, Mike, can you bring me a sandwich, please? I'm hungry, and then he comes
Yeah.
to me.
We actually have a great. We actually have a great comment in the chat regarding that discussion as well. Like, we had Ray Pope saying that, do they not know that fall is a different time on the other side of the world? It's already out there. Like,
That is true. That is
is
true.
true.
I'm Brazilian. I understand.
Yeah. But yeah, no, if you want to fly your own plane, Nathan, we could fly together.
Oh,
Do the
yeah.
flying V.
That's- Yeah. That's fine.
I would grief the hell out of you. I would just be touching all the buttons while you're flying. And
you gotta
hard-
do that
yeah,
with
hard
Viper
mode.
as well, then, and so you can do like, oh goddamn, it's Viper.
Oh, like Mike is gonna fly, and then you do karaoke, and we were like, oh, we're going
Wow.
to Ibiza, and I'm gonna sing, and
Yeah.
you're gonna fly.
But then I
Just
say,
not from Heathrow.
it's going to take 3 real life hours to get there, and you have to just sit there, be happy and jolly the whole time.
That's true. Yeah. Well, okay.
Everything's in real time. You can skip, of course, but OGs don't do that.
Oh,
no,
you're the OG now.
I'm not an OG, but the OGs do.
For one moment, you had like this OG face of like, oh yeah. I'm gonna buy like this. I'm buying the most expensive version, guys, and I'm an OG.
This is how the flight simmers roll.
Did you see him flex with his like most expensive edition that he hasn't played it yet?
Mike,
I am going to pre-order it.
Didn't you say you were afraid of airplanes, Mike?
I am actually, yeah, and that's kind of funny. I hate flying in real life, and I'm hoping that playing this game will kind of, change my mind, get me more accustomed to being in the air. So then when I get on a plane, I'll be super excited rather than scared. That's the plan anyway.
We should go to Oculus Connect. Someone just mentioned it. So we're going to all be sitting in the plane, and we're just going to do a live stream where we're going to fly to OC.
Yeah, we'll do like an 8-hour live stream.
I'm down, dude. I'm down.
Yeah. Although I've been on a plane with Rowdy for 8 hours, and it's not as fun as you'd imagine.
Well, tell us more.
No.
You sat in front of me, right? I was the guy who was constantly doing this for 8 hours.
Yeah.
Exactly.
What the kids usually do, that's what you were doing.
Yeah. So that is Microsoft's Flight Simulator coming out on the 18th of August. Now let's talk to Lucas, our special guest this week, about what he's been up to. If you're not familiar with Lucas, he is the developer behind the VR social experience, which is super unique, called Where the Thoughts Go, and now working on a YouTube channel called Lucas Builds the Future, which is super, super exciting, and it's an interesting transition as well. Yeah. But before we get into that, maybe we should talk about like how you first even got into VR and what led to where you are today.
Okay, so I actually I didn't have a technical background at all, and I've always when the Rift was announced with the Kickstarter, like way back in 2012, I looked at it, I was like, oh, that's pretty cool, but I could never do that because I'm not technical, and I thought that people who coded and made these things were like teenage geniuses who write code in their sleep. So for many years, I was looking at it at a distance, but I was like, I could never do any of that. But as the years came by, I started to think about it, and I started to think of all the things that I wanted someone to make, but that no one seemed to make. And as I, got to meet some friends in the, the tech community, I started to see how much of technology and coding and all of that, it looks harder than it is because they have all those words and the vocabulary, and it just, it seems like a different language. But when you break it down, it's like, it's not as difficult as it seems. So in 2016, I had a big breakup and I needed to get my mind off of things. So I just started going to hackathons and doing VR and, getting more and more excited about it and building things that were weird and that I liked. And turns out that that's really valuable. Just doing things that you personally really care about, but have a unique perspective, things that embody you as a person. And even if you don't have technical mastery, if you're not like a super technical person, if your work is your perspective, it usually stands out, and that's enough. And that's what Where Thoughts Go was. I think in the end, it was just it's not that I'm like a crazy good coder or anything, but because I knew enough to build something that was unique, it ended up doing well. So it was really just a crazy, messy process. I tried to get into VR for like 4 times, and I failed 4 times, and it got in on the 5th. The breakup helped a lot, and yeah, it's, lots of years of fighting imposter syndrome of like, oh, people are going to find out that I'm not really, that I don't know anything. Yeah. But then you start to see that no one knows anything and everyone's winging it. And that's when I really started to get comfortable.
There's actually a really nice suggestion as well to people who are interested, like don't wait for that miracle to appear, but kind of like, just go head on in and see what you can learn and take on good advice and just try and improve every day.
So Where Thoughts Go, can you, I'm sure some folks have not tried it. What is it all about? What can you do in this experience?
So Where Thoughts Go is a social VR experience where set in a universe where human thoughts are sleeping creatures. So you enter these worlds populated by these little orbs, and each one of them is a voice message left by another user who was there before you were. You can wake up these little creatures by touching them to listen to the voice messages that other people left behind. And to progress in the experience, you need to create your own creatures and answer increasingly more intimate questions and leave your voice messages behind for others to find. So it's very intimate. You get to explore these parts of people that, usually don't get to explore. And VR adds a layer of intimacy and immersion that it's completely counterintuitive, because I never thought that it it would work as well as it does. But it's very emotional, and there's lots of interesting things that happen, at a philosophical level that I think are cool. But that's the general gist. It's a social experience where you just share intimate shit anonymously.
How did you come up with that?
I go out to I go out to bars a lot on my own. Not anymore, of course. But I've always did this thing in which I just started having conversations with strangers, and I just love to listen to their stories and get really intimate really fast with people. And I guess that translated into VR, like where I created this VR outlet where I could have infinite amount of intimate interactions with strangers. And you learn a lot from those things, because there's just so much human wisdom that you only obtain once you have like a deeper relationship with someone. But if you can make that accessible, so you can just skip all the small talk and go into like the thick stuff, there's a lot you can get out of that. But originally it wasn't a VR experience. I was trying to do a phone app.
Interesting.
But I made it in VR because I didn't know how to make a phone app, and I knew Unity, and it was a happy surprise. It just worked out way better.
Phone app? What kind of phone app?
It was like you would like travel little like constellations of messages. You could listen to people and leave your own. But it doesn't work nearly as much, because like VR is a really good medium for focus. And there's something really important about not having external noise and just being like deep into a VR world that helps a lot with intimacy and you taking other people's intimacy seriously. When you're on a phone, there's like everything's competing for you. Notifications are competing for you. It's really hard to get people into a certain mental state. So yeah, my life is just a series of happy accidents, but Bob Ross was not wrong. And it's
with Where the Thoughts Go, was that your first released app, like game experience on any platform, or had you released stuff before that? Okay.
So I actually started with the HoloLens. That was the first thing that, I released 2 apps and made like 3 projects with this before I could do, before I got into VR, because actually virtual reality is way harder to make than augmented reality. Don't tell anybody I told you this, but it's so much harder, and people don't know. It's really hard to impress people with AR, and really less so with VR. But yeah, I made a couple of apps for this, and the cool thing is that at the time, only boring enterprise people had these, which means that anyone who's just having fun with it just like stands out like a sore thumb, because everything that was being done with the HoloLens was just so boring.
Yeah.
So yeah, I did a couple of these to learn, and then I moved into VR because I started to see that VR could do some things that AR couldn't. But I started in AR first, VR second.
And what were the AR projects like? What were the basis of them roughly?
So I made a AR chemistry app, which is like a periodic table you can load up anywhere. You can look at atoms, combine them, make molecules. It was like an education thing that I did specifically because I hated chemistry, and I was like, can I make this fun with AR? It was a simple project, and it did well. Then I started to get a little weird. I made an augmented reality version of Snake. So, but the twist is that you play as a snake in first person. So you walk around, like you put this on, you walk around your environment, you collect these little burgers, and the tail starts going out the back of your skull. So you start to create your own obstacles as you move through space, which is really fun. And it gets you to engage with your environment and climb on furniture and do all sorts of crazy shit that games usually don't make you do. And then some other audio visualization stuff, like some audio reactive holograms that react to real world audio. So you can just place a bunch of stuff around you and start playing an instrument, and it all moves and breathes with you, or you turn on a stereo and it all comes to life. Lots of little things like that.
And so your education up to that point, like did you like study like computer science or anything like that, or any sort of like anything that would help you with this kind of like endeavor that you ended up going into?
So I do have a computer science degree that I got in 2 years, because I was from Brazil, and I was trying to find a way to get into the United States to do cooler stuff, because it's a little bit hard in Brazil. And the only way I could get a visa is by being a student. So I did enroll in college, and I did technically have a computer science education, but I never went to class, really. I picked like a mediocre college that would let me do a 4-year degree in 2 years. And I would just ask the teachers of like, can I just learn this on YouTube? and I would come in for the tests, and most of them, with the exception of one, which was like my arch nemesis, would let me do that.
Wow.
And so technically, yes, but really in practice, I learned it all on YouTube, and I think it's important to make that distinction.
And I think this is something that is reoccurring, and something we've seen a lot on the show when we've had developers on the show, like Guy, for example. You know, he's pretty much self-taught, and I think, you know, it sounds from your perspective that you learn, you know, a lot of the most important stuff outside of like college or university.
Yeah, I mean, who's going to teach you VR? How to make VR?
Right.
No one's going to.
Right.
It's kind of amazing though, like the state what the internet is in, that you can have like the perfect teacher kind of in your own computer. It's amazing, because I learn a lot of the stuff that I do through that platform as well, and it's, you know, you learn so much new stuff, and then so much old stuff is on there as well. So.
But I mean, it's also a big step to move from Brazil to the United States, just to kind of follow your dreams, because like we know, of course, Ana Ribeiro, who made Pixel Ripped. She's also from Brazil. We sometimes, you know, we also notice that they're like, it's pretty challenging, for example, to get a headset to Brazil even, you know, or buy one there. And it must have been so hard for you to maybe get started over there and then make that step, because I'm sure you wanted to, like, you have family in Brazil too. So it's like you're leaving your family for, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and just to be clear, when I came into the States, I didn't even know what I was gonna do. It's like VR wasn't even an option. I was just like, I'm not happy in Brazil, and I know that if I stay here, I will not be happier. So I'm just gonna try a complete change in environment and see what happens as a result. So yeah, once I started to, because, you know, when I went to the United States, I didn't have any friends. I had to start my life from scratch. But once you do that and you're starting from life from scratch again, you start to consider things that you wouldn't otherwise, because you're like, no one knows me. I don't know who I am. Might as well try this new thing, you know?
And it's funny you say that, because like I experienced this a lot when I was growing up, because I moved every 3 years because my dad was in the army. So basically every 3 years you could like reinvent yourself, or like improve things that you didn't like, you know, when you in your previous location, you could say, oh, I'll tweak that a little bit and I'll become this different person, and you kind of evolve almost, don't you? So it's kind of interesting, but it is a very brave move to do it under your own steam. Obviously I was forced to do it in my circumstances. But it's interesting, like, so when you got into developing like Where the Thoughts Go, and then you released it, because it was originally released on Go, did it, or Gear VR?
It started with PCVR, Steam and Oculus, and then it released on Oculus Quest last year.
Okay, awesome. And like, how has the reception been of like that app? Because it's quite innovative and it stands out as completely unique. Like there isn't anything else like it out there in VR right now.
It was really strong core audience that's intensely passionate about it, and as like a group of people who just don't get it and get no enjoyment out of it. And then you have everyone in the middle. But I kind of like things like that, you know, they have a group of people that are like hyper passionate about it, and sometimes, you know, it comes at a cost of some people not understanding what the experience is about. But I think it's just a trade-off of making unique things. But it's been really good, especially critically, and it gave me all of the accreditation and the awards and the press that I needed to get another visa to stay in the States. So it all worked out pretty well. And yeah, it was cool. And a lot of people that I know, it's their favorite VR experience precisely because it's unique. Although, you know, you would never get the same thrills that you get with like The Walking Dead or something like that. But you will get something new. Which it's what I want in VR, honestly.
It's welcome.
Yeah,
it's welcome.
And
sure.
You know, it's kind of moving as well, like, because it's kind of random, isn't it, who you get in terms of like their experience. And some of them can be super emotional, you know, some of them get super deep as well. Having tried it myself, you know, some of them do get like super deep into like what happened in their life, because it's like, you know, tell me about like a time that you've fallen in love with someone or something like that. Am I remembering this right? And they go into super detail about it, and bearing in mind they're sharing this with complete strangers because it's anonymous, of course.
Got that anonymous like kind of feel to it. Like people are feeling more free to like share something like that than they probably would have when they were actually physically talking to someone.
Or assigned to a name or something.
Well, and next to that also, you mentioned the bar. Like some people are kind of anxious to, you know, be social in real life, but this kind of gives you the opportunity to kind of experience it for the first time, where you share something, but you don't see this person, but you know that someone is going to listen to it. So you can kind of start kind of rolling into that. So it's almost like the bar without the people, but you just can't see them, but they're there.
It's an introvert's dreamscape.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm
true.
saying. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
True.
That's true.
Yeah. So with that, like, did you get involved with like Oculus or anything like that to be like part of their start program, or was it just a completely self-funded app?
Oh, it was self-funded. I did join Start, but I think the only way to do interesting things is, especially as an outsider, because no one fucking knew me. And they didn't know if I could actually finish anything. And actually it's still like, I actually try to get some projects funded that are like really weird and unique, and people actually are still hesitant to give me any sort of funding because it's like, there's nothing like this. We don't know if it's going to work. But that's precisely what makes cool projects. And we can talk about that. But yeah, I was pretty much on my own. And that's when coming and being in like a one-man team really helps. You have runway. You don't need a lot of money to build things, but it is exhausting, and there is it drains a lot out of you doing a project like this for 1-2 years, which is one of the reasons why I'm segueing into YouTube projects. With VR and AR.
Yeah, and before we touch on that, like, have you considered like releasing some of these more interesting ideas on like SideQuest, for example?
Yeah, it's just that there's like I care a lot about polish and perfectionism. So by the time you develop something that it has a certain level of polish, it's not Quest ready anymore. But I will try to find projects in the future that I can throw on the on SideQuest. But it's like, I guess I thought about it, but it's like, I can't post things that are unpolished online. I just have this thing. Maybe it's something that I need to overcome and be better at. But I'm trying to find the happy middle ground, actually.
It's difficult. Yeah, it's difficult. It is difficult.
I mean, when we spoke to Zach last week, about Vertigo, he had like this, like giving a release date, it's like, okay, now it's really gonna come out. So as a developer, it's like you're working on it in your own bubble. So you have no idea what people are gonna think of it from the outside. It's the same for us when we upload a video, right? It's like you have no idea. You think it might be good, and then when you upload it, everyone loves it. You're like, well, I thought it was okay. So I mean,
but he gave himself a hard deadline,
Yeah.
And had to stick with it. That's the point there, I guess.
So he didn't use full, or he didn't
use no. He was a bit more specific.
Yeah.
But maybe we can talk about this transition then from like VR dev into
maybe
like.
First,
go on.
maybe first we can, because we have quite a few questions from the chat.
Okay, sure.
As well,
sure.
maybe on this, since we're still on this topic. So first we had from Paradise Decay. Did Lucas already check out Real VR Fishing? The photogrammetry and animation in that game is superb.
I have not. I am checking it out right now.
Real VR Fishing. Good suggestion.
Wait, they use photogrammetry in that one? I didn't know that.
Apparently, according to Paradise Decay.
It looks real for sure.
Oh yeah, they're super clever. Yeah, they're mixing 360 photos and real-time elements. Yeah, this is clever. Yeah, I'm looking at the trailer.
Yeah, all right. And then we have from Waffle, interesting name. He must be Belgian. He asked, how long did it take for you to make the game?
So I was learning how to code as I was making it. So I actually rebuilt it from scratch 4 times. And this is something that's going to happen when you're new. You start to make so many mistakes and they start to add up on top of each other to the point that it's quicker to rebuild the app from scratch than it is to, fix those mistakes because they're just so fundamental. And they're just like tearing the whole project down. So like the first version of the game, it took like actually 4 months to make the first version, but I rebuilt it, I had to rebuild it 3 more times. So it ended up being like a 1 year and 2 months development cycle. But that's part of it, it's part of the sacrifice. But yeah, and then I got to a point that I was polishing it too much, to the point that I was like, wait, no one cares about it. I should stop and release it.
So,
which happens a lot.
So, but that's kind of interesting because in the end, usually if like a bigger dev studio, they can't just start over every time because in the end you need to deliver a product, you have investors, you have. So how do you manage that? Because in the end, I mean, you need money to live, but you also need money to make your next project or sell your project that you're working on.
Yeah, I mean, for most of my life, I was always on the verge of bankruptcy and money would just appear magically when I needed it. There would be an opportunity that would work. But the way really that I actually funded my education is that initially when I was doing HoloLens projects, where's the HoloLens? Okay, cool. I bought a HoloLens when I had student debt and I don't know why I bought this. It was such a bad financial decision to force myself to like, I need to make money with this. Otherwise I am screwed. And then I basically, because there was almost no mixed reality developers developing for this, I got 1 or 2 or 3 contract gigs in which they basically financed me learning how to make stuff for this.
Wow.
And then I,
awesome.
and then I did that to pay for my education and all that stuff. But then I actually got like a small investment on Where Thoughts Go. It was someone who was like, I don't know what this is, but I like you. Here's some money. I was like, okay, thanks. And yeah, then I got a grant later. It was something that happened that I was lucky with. And now the Oculus Quest sales are helping a little bit. So it's this constant of just like things are happening.
Yeah.
And I've been trying to live this philosophy of like, think about money all the time. So you never have to think about it at all. As in every time you meet someone who's done something really weird and artistic, you're like, so how'd you fund this? And you just keep asking those questions all the time and try to find, if there's something that's a good fit for what you're doing.
Yeah.
And
So that's
if
why
you're doing that all the time, money appears.
And because that's why I was wondering that because I have met you many times. It seems like you're at every event. Like I think at VR Days I'm in Amsterdam and suddenly you pop up. I'm like, where the heck did you come from? It's like you're everywhere, connecting with everyone. Of course, like learning from everyone. And yeah, I think it's a good tactic.
Being at conferences was instrumental. Like everything. All the major connections that made me make the main decisions that I did, I made it at conferences.
Mm-hmm.
I started Where Thoughts Go because I went to a Unity conference and there was a Sundance Film Festival panel where they were saying, we want weird storytelling VR experiences and we don't care if there's, if there's no reference for it. And I was like, oh, maybe I could turn Where Thoughts Go into that. And then I started doing it. And then I met someone at GDC who led me to the grant.
Yeah.
So going to conferences is definitely really important, I think, as an independent, because you are your sales team.
Yeah.
And now,
interesting.
Now you're one of us.
One of us. We should talk about that transition. Like, where did the idea of then? Okay, now I'm going to create content on YouTube, and that's going to be like the plan going forward.
Okay, so as you're all creative people, and you know what it is like to have lots of ideas and you just can't work on all of them. Well, I was like, how can I work on all of them? Is there a way to make this happen? Now, I did have the experience of working on a project for like 1-2 years with Where Thoughts Go, and that was cool, but I'd much rather do 20 projects in 2 years than one project every 2 years. And because VR and AR is so new, there's like so much crazy shit that you can make that maybe it doesn't have any commercial application, or maybe it's a megalomaniac project that is basically no way you can make money off of that or turn it into a startup or anything. But the idea is so cool that it's worth building. And I was like, maybe I could fill that gap, right? And do all these crazy ideas that I have that I can't sell, but the story of making it is so interesting that it's worth making. So that's been something I've been thinking about in the past year and a half of like, all these things that would be amazing if someone made them, but there's no incentive to make them because there's no money in it. So I've been slowly trying to think of like, how can there be a way for me to build these crazy projects and start conversations and start controversy and just make VR exciting, especially for the average person. But also, create a pipeline in which it's sustainable. And that's where Lucas Builds the Future started. And I was like, starting with the time machine is a cool way of starting this whole concept. And again, it's something that a lot of work can't sell it. 7 terabytes of video. What am I going to do with that? But it's cool enough that it, like, when people watch it, hopefully they look at VR in a completely different way. And if I can do projects every month in which people are completely looking at VR and AR completely differently every month, that to me is progress for the whole industry. Especially if you're reaching the average mainstream person, because then they're like, oh, it's not just games. It's like, it's a world breaker, literally, because, we get to mold what reality looks like. So yeah, I was thinking about it. And then in February, I was actually at my low point with VR. I was like, burned out. I was tired. I spent 8 months trying to fund my VR experiences and no one would give me money. And I was like, you know what? I love this thing, this time machine. I don't know if it's going to work. I'm going to spend 3 months on it. I'm going to give it all my all and see if the world accepts it and see if the world cares. If the world cares, great. It's a new career path. If the world doesn't care, I know they will never care because I put in my all. So that's what I did, and it worked out good. So thankfully,
how do you define like care? In that sense, I'm curious. Is it like just positive reactions in general?
Whether it really affects people. Whether it affects people at a deep, deep human level, because I don't want to just do things that are funny. Like there's plenty of people who do that, Michael Reeves, who do projects that are funny and but don't necessarily show you what new the brave new worlds of tomorrow. So something that affects people at a really strong level, but also is easy enough for the average person to understand that it can go viral every time you create something, because you need that. Unfortunately, you need to be going. If I am to make this series long term, I need every project to go viral to some degree somewhere. So yeah, that makes of simple so everyone can understand it, but also have enough depth that it can really affect people.
Yeah, but
that to me is caring.
It's interesting because when you say viral, then most people think about viral in terms of viewers on YouTube, but viral can also mean viral in your network of people. If people see this from, let's say, a business perspective, and they're like, hey, this is cool what you're making. Are you going to make more episodes? Maybe we could do this and we could work on it together. So a lot can come out of a video. That's what I'm saying, in many different aspects.
Yeah, respect points are really important, actually. They open lots of doors. And this is something that I got with Where Thoughts Go, even though I didn't get crazy numbers. But with the time machine thing, I also try to make, sorry, not to get into it too quickly, but I also made a version for YouTube, version for Reddit, version for TikTok, everywhere. And on Reddit, it got 5 million views, which was cool. Wow. YouTube didn't trickle down as much, but it's a longer term strategy. And TikTok and it just didn't work at all. You got to work on that.
Oh wow, I'm surprised actually.
It's the algorithm. It's tricky. Yeah.
We know the daily battle with the algorithm for sure. So like maybe you can talk about like how did this idea come about with the time machine, and then maybe for some people that didn't watch the video, like briefly kind of outline the process that you went through to get that up and running.
Okay, so should I tell them what the time machine is? First, sure. Like a general overview. Sure. So basically, the whole concept of the project is that I spent the entire year of 2019 wearing cameras on my face. These cameras, in fact, these are spectacles. They record live from my perspective in stereoscopic 3D. So I spent the whole year traveling around the world, recording my life, because in 2019, I decided to become a digital nomad. So I would move countries every month or so. And then in 2020, using virtual reality, I built a time machine that lets me go back and relive moments from my past. And that's the general concept. As to how it came about, I was not building a time machine at first. I was building like a memory palace. So I could, just walk around and see those memories and relive them in that way. And I actually made a 3-minute video that I was going to release of the memory palace, and it was ready to go. But I realized that every time that I described it to people, I called it a time machine, and that's when it would click. And then just before posting, I was like, well, what if I rebuild this as a time machine? Isn't it that much more compelling? And it turns out that it was. So it was this iterative process of like, slowly trying to find out what that balance is between an idea that's simple and something that's, also really interesting. And it just happened slowly. In quarantine was when it really kicked. And I also, just like Where Thoughts Go, I did this video from scratch 4 times.
4 times. Oh my god, no
days.
way, seriously.
Wow.
Especially
Trying to
because
find out what
video-
my voice is. You know,
Yeah.
I was like, what's
But
the
especially
style?
if
Is it going to
you-
be narration? Is it going to be vlog? Do I sound like Vsauce? Do I sound like this guy? What's my voice? I didn't know. So I just
the thing
like, I
is
would,
with the thing is with your video is because it's a quite lengthy video, but there's so much work and effort that has been put in that video, and just knowing that you redid that video so many times, like we as we all make videos, we know how much time consuming making a video can be. That is an incredible amount of devotion.
So when you say redoing, that means not only did you sometimes record yourself or record something, you're like, this is not good enough, needs to be done again, but also maybe the storyline of how you were going to explain the time machine. So like hustling the whole puzzle and trying to put it together in a different way.
yeah, it's basically, you know, everything from the most basic things of like, what is my voice in this? You know, what is my character? When does comedy come in? When do things get serious? What is the style of comedy? And all the way to, yeah, like how do you, which parts do you focus on? Which parts do you leave out? But initially the first version of the video, it was a memory palace and I made 10 minutes of it. And I was like, this is not bad, but it's not great, you know? It was like people liked it, but they just liked it. And whenever I send something to people and they're like, "Oh, that's cool," I feel like a failure.
Right.
Yeah, like it's kind of like all or nothing.
Yeah.
You either make them go like, "Whoa, what the fuck," or don't do it at all. So I just kept trying to get to that, to you know,
You
to the
should
explosive
totally
reactions.
you should totally open up those old cuts of the video, like as a Patreon tier or something like that.
Oh boy,
Oh boy.
People would pay for that,
they're
especially
so
like
cringy.
if it goes bigger from here, then you've definitely got an audience there to check those older videos out. But what? So you know, you come up with the idea, you've made the video, you've released it. What was the, you know, how did that feel, like releasing the video into the wild and then the reaction that it got? Like how did you find that?
I'm glad it went viral on Reddit. I thought I was gonna do better on Twitter. I think Twitter might. Does Twitter shut down posts that have YouTube links in them?
No, it's just that I think
Twitter is usually
different
the
medium.
platform
Yeah.
where someone watches a video. That's where it comes down to. It's like you share an
Okay.
opinion in text form. That's kind of what
Yeah.
it comes down to. Yeah.
I was glad it went viral on Reddit. That it went to the front page and all of that because, you know, I designed this project to go viral, and that basically confirmed in my head that you can design projects to go viral from the get-go. You know, the way you build them. So it's like that's important because you need that in the long run. But what I didn't really expect the response on YouTube. The comment section was fucking insane. Like people were writing these essays. And the subscriber to view ratio was really high. Now it lowered, but it was like 10%. So every 10 people who watched it, one would subscribe. So even though it didn't, like, has 100,000 views, 150,000 views right now, even though the numbers on YouTube weren't crazy high, it seems to really have made an impact on the people that do watch it. So I'm like, okay, maybe the YouTube algorithm will be kind to me one day and start showing this to people a year, 2 years from now, if I keep making this stuff. But it was, I was happy. And I was happy that people liked that I got serious because in early versions of the video, I was trying to make everything a joke all the time because I was afraid of losing people if I stopped joking around. But looks like they like depth. And that gives me so much hope that people like depth because sometimes you can forget, you know, especially in the age of today where like, is it worth to make a 30-minute thing and spend all this time doing something that's, you know, more long form and more thoughtful when you can just do 10-second clips on TikTok?
Especially
it's like this show, you know. We could put together a 10-minute recap of the news every week, but we don't. We do it in this like long form format. You know,
it's very challenging because we're living in a time where people get bored pretty quickly. You know, we're used to just scrolling through videos, not really watch them anymore. Just get to the interesting part, watch it, and then just get to the next one. You know, Netflixing, like you can pick everything you want or you don't pick it. So having a video that long and then going serious, because YouTube usually as a platform is more about the entertainment part. Finding something that is more serious is usually a little bit more hidden. So having something like this, and as you said, like people really, you know, getting into it and listening to what you have to say, I mean that's a, you know, accomplishment on itself.
and I think the reason why it was so successful though is because it had that nice balance of being deep, being super interesting, a medium that people don't really know that much about, and also just being really entertaining and well edited as well. I think it was a combination of a lot of things, you know, that made it super successful.
Yeah, I am trying to make this a very unique format in which it's half fiction, half nonfiction, in which is going to be jumping between the two. And there's tons of stuff I want to do with that. But it's, especially when it comes to dramatizing certain parts of the building process. So it's more, so it feels like, you know, an actual story with conflict and twists and turns, which is not very common for YouTube videos. But I think one concern that's important to bring up is there is such a thing as being too original, and being too original can hurt you a lot, actually, of doing something that's so new that it just goes beyond to most people. And this is something that you probably have to deal with as well. You have to be original on the edges. You can't be too original to the point that you're like, people don't get it. You have to be just original enough, and you have some of the old, so people understand what you are and they can enjoy, you know, the uniqueness.
Well, especially with this video you made, right? It's about VR. Well, most people on YouTube, they have never really seen VR, and they're like, what is this? And like, we see that every day where people learn new stuff. So you, like, even with our videos, we don't want to get too complicated with the whole VR thing. So like the way you did it, like you explain what VR is and you explain what time traveling is. So you have the best balance where it's like a little roller coaster, but it doesn't go too up and down, but kind of keep it in the middle. So I think you did a great job with that.
I think as well, like the reaction, like, you know, I saw an article about like the video and Gizmodo, you know, tech website that I view regularly. And I think you were on, like, you got asked to be on some TV shows. Did you get asked to get on some TV shows? Which is pretty crazy. Like, how was that experience?
No, this was super cool. So last week I had an interview with Kelly Clarkson at the Kelly Clarkson Show, which is an NBC show, which means that VR has made it to a housewife show.
Yes.
That is amazing. Yes. And to me, that was like, yes, this can actually be mainstream, right? You can actually make things that people who are not usually connected to the VR market care about. But that was actually the biggest thing for me, is just knowing that, oh, you can tell a story about VR, you know, that American housewives care about. And it's, you know, not that housewives don't do VR, but for the most part, the demographics don't line up. Okay, it's just how it is right now. That was cool. And so yeah, it's that mix of making something that can go viral, making something that has depth, not only so you can, you know, create a conversation and actually meaningfully change how people think about this, but also so you can have the press thing. So it's a press cycle on a viral and a press cycle on every episode, which again is needed if you're going to do something that's higher quality and it's only like one episode every 45 days.
And what about, you know, the future episodes, like your plans for the future? Are they going to be VR focused, or is it generally VR, or is it other tech, or, you know, what's the kind of plan for the future?
I'm going to be jumping between VR and AR for the next 5 episodes that I have scheduled.
Nice.
You're working on 5 episodes at the same time?
I mean, so here's the thing. I have some ideas for episodes, and I'm like, this will be really good. But, you know, I should do this one later. So some ideas are just like simmering in the background, and I have like good episodes structured for them. And some of them are like, oh, I should do this right now because of the timing and because of the series. Because I want to do some VR things that are VR and AR things that are fairly controversial. But for me to go into controversy, I need to first like just earn the trust of people a little bit. You know, do a couple episodes where everyone's happy, so I can then make the episodes that split audiences. So there's also that. But I'm going to start with VR and AR in the next 5 episodes. And then I want to move into other aspects of technology, of AI, of food technology, of and doing creative, crazy projects with brain interfaces and all of that. But VR and AR is where my niche audience is. It's where most of my ideas are because it's what I do. So that's what I want to start with. But always exploring things that are underexplored. So episode 4, for example, will be focused on the future of propaganda. And I think that's a big thing with VR that people don't talk about, because they talk about VR as being as this beautiful empathy machine, but you can make people feel empathy for terrible, terrible things, and make them, you know, it's just you can brainwash people, and people don't talk about it. So I'm like, I'm going to build something that brainwashes people and see how the world reacts. So yeah, those kinds of things that really, move conversation and make VR exciting again, because I've been a little bit. I feel like the innovation in VR has been a little bit decreasing in the past 2 years.
Yeah.
People are trying to find out what works commercially and what doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
So people are moving on to making more commercially based decisions rather than this
Interesting
is really
stuff.
cool and it
Yeah.
needs to exist.
Yeah,
No.
I totally agree. Yeah, I totally agree. But yeah, I'm interested in these like controversial episodes. I think they're going to be super fun.
Yeah, the series actually, I wanted to start with an episode that involves food tech that I've always wanted to do, but I can't. I need a year of practice before I can do it. But there's like the controversy ones are the ones I'm excited about too. But I'm trying to do them very carefully.
Yeah.
So I'm actually going to bother you a lot about this because I don't want.
That's cool.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Sure.
Responsibility.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, absolutely. You know, once you build that audience, you've got a responsibility to look after them, of course. Maybe we should take some questions. If anyone's got a question in the chat for Lucas before we move into releases, then go ahead. But it's been super interesting to sort of pick your brain about, you know, how you got to this point, because I think a lot of developers took a similar path, you know, just kind of like building stuff, breaking it, learning from it, building again, you know, that kind of mentality.
Yeah.
But like a developer becoming a YouTuber, that's something that
That's
rarely see. But it's interesting. Like we have seen it the other way around, where, for example, you know, Brandon from Stress Level Zero is, you know, he was a YouTuber and then he went into making games. So that's the other way around. But I've never seen it the way you do it, where it's like you make a complete series on something.
Yeah, I haven't seen a lot of people that really combine this kind of, you know, just good amount of creative and technical knowledge with storytelling. And yeah, like there's lots of DIY on YouTube, especially with tech, is huge, but most of it is like fun projects or things that are funny, but are not really like, you know, they don't have a lot of meat in them, even though I love all the Michael Reeves videos where he tases people.
Yeah, they're brilliant.
So maybe there's a way to do that, but to me it was more like, oh, you can get 100 times the audience, and I can do projects 20 times faster, and I don't have to wait for the technology to catch up with the mainstream public. I can just do whatever idea I want to do right now, instead of having to wait until the headsets get eye tracking and stuff like that. So that's really the main reason.
Well, you're creating your own format. That's what you're doing, and then in the end, people will kind of like the first one was a pretty good start. So
Yeah,
try telling a creative person to wait to be creative.
It doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
No. We've got some good questions from the chat. How did you nomad with all that hardware, or did you only carry the Quest?
I carry the Quest and the Rift S, and I only have like one big bag and a carry-on bag. You don't need much to live actually in this world. I don't own furniture, and I don't want to own furniture for the foreseeable future because it's just dead weight. But yeah, I think I might just use the Quest from now on, especially the Quest 2 is what I think it's going to be. I'd love to have just the Quest 2.
Absolutely. And where are you living right now, by the way?
I'm in the Bay Area, actually. I stopped traveling because of COVID. But I'm going back on the road in September, but focus on rural locations, so nature.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
You can save a lot of money, too. It's cheaper than people think. It's way cheaper than living in any major American city.
That's interesting. Yeah.
We got a few comments as well. Like first we had VRIDs and C saying that Lucas is the doppelganger of a famous French artist called Orelsan. I never heard of him before, but
wait, Orelsan?
Or
in El Mouse? Oh, okay.
I knew who that is. And then we have D1360 VR saying we do need Snake for Quest. So maybe you should still release that title.
Snake room skill. Snake Arena.
No, that actually wouldn't be hard.
Snake Arena sounds like a pretty fun
it's gonna
title.
happen. And then we have quite a few people who are actually saying that they actually just subscribe to your channel, and there are a couple of people asking what your channel is as well. But I believe we posted it in the description already, or we'll do so after.
Yeah.
After the
If
show
not,
goes live.
go check it out. It's Lucas Builds the Future. Yeah.
Indeed.
And we've got one more question from Fabza, who says, what do you think about the innovation happening in Dreams within PSVR?
Biggest innovation hub in VR, probably for the foreseeable future. There's going to be it's going to be the place where we're going to see the most unique VR gameplay mechanics, I think, for the next couple of years. It's going to be the best title and sort of like the amount of experiences you can get for the money you pay for. I adore Dreams. I'm so sad Sony owns it, so it can't be on PC. But yeah, I'm gonna be like checking that out all the time because I think it's gonna be the most innovative place in VR when it comes to interaction. I almost envy a little bit because it's so fun to build stuff there. And
I think we mentioned this on last week's show. It's going to kind of pave the way for maybe future VR developers, like finding their feet within Dreams. I think it's a super unique platform, and excited to see what comes out of that for sure. I think it's been amazing talking to you. I think we could talk to you for hours about your projects, but let's move on to some releases with Rowdy and sort of round up the show. But it's been an absolute pleasure, Lucas. So thank you again for joining us. Go on then, Rowdy. What sort of releases have we got to look forward to next week? Anything good on the lineup?
Yeah, like I did a bit of research, and it's going to be a little bit of a slower week, I would say. Like we had a lot of like awesome titles that came out just in the past week. I think Onward being everyone's top of the list there. But we have one that is coming out on the Oculus Quest and the Rift and Steam on August 7, and it's called the Shooty Skies Overdrive. And this kind of feels like a little bit like what's the name? Space Pirate Simulator. It has a little bit of that kind of feel, but then more like an even more like retro kind of feel. The description goes as follows: escape the arcade in Shooty Skies Overdrive, an action-packed VR shoot 'em up. Dodge and weave your way through dynamically generated enemy waves and blast them at point-blank range. An incredibly journey through a colorful retro world and ridiculous alien invaders. And I think that's indeed like a pretty accurate description. It kind of feels like the art style from Space Invader, just with a lot more color to it. A room scale bullet hell shooter experience.
Very well written description.
The girl in the trailer actually is Nazy from Twitch. I don't know if you know her, but she's actually got a Twitch channel. But I checked out the game recently. Actually, it's very basic, of course. It's just got like a nice aesthetic to it. It's just like a shooter with a plane that's basically stuck to your controller. But it does have some charm to it with some of the sort of like the design of it and like the kind of pixel blocky artwork. It's kind of nice. It's pretty basic.
Yeah, I got a couple of more titles, two more actually that are releasing this week as well. It's Rocking Hero. That's another one of them, and this is kind of like the music genre if you ever wanted to become a rock star. But then the virtual reality. How is it called again? Is it Guitar Hero on the?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of like the VR version for it. So the description of this one goes as follows: is play your virtual guitar in musically dynamic environments at the sound of an original rock metal inspired soundtrack, or customize your experience by creating your own levels with your own music in our map editor. Multiple control schemes are available and more to come during early access. Now, I've only found this on the Steam store, so it will be released for the Valve Index, HTC Vive, and the Oculus Rift officially. I haven't found it on the Quest store, so I do think that the developers should maybe look into that, because it feels like a title like this might actually benefit from being
there is someone working on a guitar game where it's hand tracked, so I think that's what people are want to play on Quest, I guess. Also, there is still, of course, is it Rock Band VR?
Yep.
Yeah.
That you can also play, but
with the extra add-on.
Well, the add-on that is still available on the Oculus website that you can still buy.
Is it?
Yeah, you can buy it. Yeah, it's in the list.
It shipped with the CV1 though, right?
Yeah,
I don't think I have it.
And most people who got the CV1, they had no idea what this thing was, and I also felt like the game never really got the hype that it deserved, or it was just not. I just remember the trailer of Palmer Luckey coming out of that tour bus and then
it was amazing.
Destroying the guitar, and that was amazing. I still like that's what I wanted to see Jason Rubin doing, or Mike.
Funnily enough, it is Jason Rubin's favorite VR game. That's what he said when I asked him anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this title is releasing on August 6th. And then I actually included one more game that is releasing next week as well. And I did this especially for Lucas because it's also a very unique and different kind of experience. It's releasing on the 7th of August, and it's called Emergence. Now, this is an open world VR environment expressing the primal desire to maintain your individual identity whilst being part of a crowd. and I have absolutely no idea what that means or how that works. But the trailer looks freaking awesome. I'll read a little bit more about the game because I literally don't know what it's about. As you immerse yourself in a crowd of thousands, shafts of light beckon you closer. As you touch the light, the environment, its atmosphere, its gravity, and the choreography of the crowd transform in powerful ways, continually challenging your perception. It is showing 5,000 plus intelligent human behaviors. Emergence offers a powerful, unique experience of a crowd that is only possible with the latest graphics technology. And I think that is something that is...
Is this a VR game? Like, it doesn't even look like a VR game.
It doesn't look like a VR game, right? But it has VR support for Valve Index, HTC Vive, and the Oculus Rift.
Wow, that's super weird.
Like third person?
With tracked motion controllers.
But
from a third person perspective.
Yeah, okay.
That's a very strange looking game.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know, right? Oh, we can't hear you, Lucas. You're muted.
You're muted, Lucas. We can't hear you. That's okay.
Hi.
Yeah.
I was expressing my enthusiasm, and I'm like, you play something like this, you just can't forget something like this once you play it. It just looks like it's one of those, there's no crazy gameplay, but it's like it gives you a perspective that you can only get in VR, and it just burrows into your brain, and it changes how you see the world just a little bit. And
it's like when everyone was like keeping the distance, it's like social distancing simulator 2020.
It's the opposite.
That's what it looks like.
And then I have one more title that I wanted to include just because I think it's cool, and they have a release date of summer 2020, which means absolutely nothing, but I'm expecting it to become. I mean, it's summer. I mean, it's quite hot here. It's quite hot in the UK, so bring it out already. And it's called Stride. And this is kind of like the mirror's edge of virtual reality. It's a story parkour action game in virtual reality. You battle enemies in the canopy of a quarantined metropolis. So again, they got the perfect time period to release it now. Experience the feeling of vertigo as you stream between rooftops and flow across balconies in your effort to save the city. And I think this is visually an awesome game to play, and also just the feeling of getting a mirror's edge game in virtual reality would be awesome.
I honestly would warn for this one, because Joe, the developer, has a reputation of not finishing games, or when they do finish it, it's kind of half baked, and they're like, I don't know, it usually looks more like, okay, we make some quick money and let's make the next one. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's how I have seen them making games in the past and also now. So yeah, Mirror's Edge in VR, trailer looks pretty solid, but I would still kind of, wait it out, see what Steam reviews say.
It is a trailer, of course. They're going to show the best parts.
True, but I mean, Mirror's Edge in VR sounds like super hyped and great, and I would love to have a proper one in VR for sure.
Okay. Yeah, there's something about this. Wait, okay, I'm unmuted. The trailer, it looks so much like Mirror's Edge that the YouTube algorithm tags it as Mirror's Edge gameplay.
Yeah, true.
It actually thinks that it's Mirror's Edge, and I found that was like amazing.
Wow. Is there a game that you're like super hyped about? Like, if there's one game that you could say like, oh, I'm super excited about this one, is there one on your list, Lucas, that's coming out maybe this year, or something that you've played already that might be coming out next year?
No.
And
that's why I'm doing what I'm doing.
And I think that's fair to say, because, like, if you think about it right now, especially on like a PC VR platform, releases that we really, really want to look forward to are like Microsoft Flight Simulator, Squadrons, maybe Medal of Honor as well, Lone Echo 2, but you could count them all on a single hand, and I think that's unfortunate right now.
Like, I'm gonna love Squadrons, I'm gonna play it, the hell out of it, all the ones you mentioned, Medal of Honor, but it's like something that's like, has me just like my eyes sparkling, and I'm waiting for it. Usually I discover those experiences and film festivals and stuff, and it's an accident, but there's nothing really that I look at with real enthusiasm.
I think what you said before, we want some innovation, we want something new, we want something different, and that's gonna shine in VR for sure.
And hopefully, like, the projects that you're working on will inspire maybe some people to take a risk on something and make something a bit more unique and interesting, rather than the kind of go for the commercial successes, like you said, which is fair.
it's fair and it makes complete sense.
Yeah.
But I also think there's room for people who are doing things that are unapologetically weird. And if you do them enough, people start recognizing you for it, and maybe you can build a life around it. But it does take that leap of faith that, I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, maybe we'll see more of that innovation when Oculus adopts, this kind of like easier platform to sideload or install content that isn't available in the official store. That we'll see some more interesting innovation like we've seen on SideQuest already. But I think that's coming soon, hopefully in the future, and will be announced alongside the next Quest at OC7. So fingers crossed.
Dreams is the game that I'm most excited about, and all the things that will be made there. It's really the sorry.
Good point.
That's actually my answer.
Okay, no, that's fair enough. Do you think Horizon will be something similar in a way? Because they kind of
Facebook's new Horizon.
Yeah, they're kind of suggesting that you'll kind of be able to build your own worlds and do that kind of stuff. You think it'll be more limited?
Maybe build words, but I don't think gameplay.
Okay. We'll have to wait and see, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you again, Lucas, for joining us on this week's show. It's been an absolute pleasure talking VR with you for this episode. Just a reminder to everyone, this is a weekly VR, AR, and MR talk show, live streamed every Saturday on YouTube and Twitch. The show goes live at 7 p.m. in Europe, 6 p.m. in the UK, 12 midday in Central US. Also check out the audio version, which is available on iTunes, SoundCloud, and on Spotify. Make sure you hit the like button on YouTube if you enjoyed the show. It shows us that you care, and subscribe to the channel for all our future content as well. Thank you for joining us live, everyone. We really appreciate you, and we'll see you next week at the usual time, and Zim will be joining us back on the show as well. Thanks again to Lucas. It's been awesome having you on the show, and have a great week. Until then, bye-bye for now. Take care. See you later.
Bye-bye.